This is no longer a game for two players, if it ever was. Stannis Baratheon and Lysa Arryn have fled beyond my reach, and the Whispers say they are gathering swords around them. The Knight of Flowers writes his Lord Father to send his sister to court. Lord Renly and Sir Loras intend that Robert should wed her, bed her, and make her a new queen. Littlefinger. The gods only know what game Littlefinger is playing. How on earth did Littlefinger stump Varys? How did he stump us all? What is this guy up to? What an asshole. Varys' analysis of the game in A Game of Thrones is pretty darn enlightening. Now we know Varys' plan: eventually create chaos in Westeros to allow Aegon to take over. That chaos will occur when everyone finds out about Joffrey's parentage. However, Aegon's army isn't ready yet, so during A Game of Thrones, Varys is trying to keep the peace. Somehow Renly finds out about the incest and tries to bring Margaery to court to marry Robert. And somehow Stannis finds out about the incest and tells Jon Arryn. And somehow Pycelle finds out about the incest and lets Jon Arryn die over it. Now Renly and Stannis specifically say that they didn't talk to each other about the incest, and Varys and Pycelle wouldn't want the information to get out. Yet somehow the entire Small Council, and only the Small Council, find out about the incest within a relatively short period of time. By process of elimination, we can pretty much determine that it was Littlefinger that was blabbing to everyone about incest. This move certainly hurts Varys, but how does it help Littlefinger? Why would Littlefinger ever want to make Stannis the heir to the throne? Littlefinger specifically says that as king, Stannis would replace him on the Small Council and would probably ban brothels. The answer seems to be with our hero Sweet Robin. Coincidentally, around the same time as the incest leak, there's some disagreement about the fostering of Sweet Robin. Robert wants him fostered with Tywin Lannister, although this was probably suggested by Pycelle, and Jon Arryn wants him fostered with Stannis, probably to keep him away from Tywin Lannister. Now whoever holds Sweet Bobby A holds the loyalty of the Vale, so it's not exactly that hard to predict that someone would want him in the event of war. And it's not very hard to predict that a father would want to protect his son. Littlefinger's leak could have gone many ways. It could have ended up with Renly suggesting that Sweet Robin be fostered in the Reach, or Jon Arryn wanting him fostered in the North. But it all ends in the same place, Lysa being stripped from her son. And so Littlefinger convinces Lysa to murder Jon Arryn and run away with our boy Sweet Robin. After a couple years, when suspicions go down, Littlefinger then marries Lysa, and in turn murders her. So making Stannis the heir may have just been an accidental side effect of a larger plan. Now many people look at this and say, Littlefinger, what a genius, he has the Vale. No, our main man Sweet Robin has the Vale, and if not him, Harry the heir. That is, at least in the long run. Littlefinger at best has temporary governance over the Vale, and he gave up a very lucrative job as Master of Coin for this. And if control over the Vale was his mission, why did he kill Lysa Arryn? She's the one that gave him legitimacy. So why did Littlefinger go through all this trouble to spread a rumor of incest, freak out Jon Arryn and want him to get Sweet Robin out of King's Landing, convince Lysa to kill Jon Arryn over that freak out, marry Lysa Arryn, and then kill Lysa Arryn? Temporary governance of the Vale without Lysa Arryn's authority is somehow essential to Littlefinger's plan. Whatever Littlefinger is up to, it doesn't involve him staying in the Vale for very long, and it's something that Lysa Arryn would be against. We'll get back to this, but I want to talk about Littlefinger as Master of Coin. Littlefinger is supposed to be a financial genius, and yet the realm is 6 million gold dragons in debt. Robert supposedly loved feasts and tourneys, but even if you had a tourney the size of the Hands tourney every few months, you wouldn't get to 6 million gold dragons. Clearly Littlefinger was doing something else with all of that money. Now Tyrion tells us that Littlefinger invested some of the money in private enterprise, and he also tells us that Littlefinger has bribed nearly everyone in King's Landing. And Giles Rosby has coughed to us that far too many gold cloaks have been hired. The point being, by the time A Feast for Crows comes around, the Iron Throne lacks liquid assets to pay off its debts. Essentially, the Iron Throne's dispute with the Iron Bank of Braavos is Littlefinger's doing, and we see evidence of this money problem pretty early. In A Clash of Kings, a Braavosi moneylender comes to King's Landing demanding payment and is sent to Littlefinger. This means that prior to racking up war debts, the Iron Throne was already heading towards conflict with the Iron Bank. It should be noted that Littlefinger comes from a Braavosi family and often sails on Braavosi ships. But how does beggaring the realm help Littlefinger? If anything, this move again helps Stannis. The Iron Bank of Braavos throws in with Stannis, a person that Littlefinger supposedly doesn't like. Well, the Iron Bank of Braavos does something incredibly extreme during A Feast for Crows. They call in their outstanding debt from people all over Westeros. Now this is pretty crazy. Imagine if in our world a major bank called back all of its loans. Businesses and homeowners wouldn't know what to do. Where would they find the money? It would be a crisis. Yeah, you can default, but the Iron Bank is specifically said not to be fucked with. So an unknown number of houses in Westeros are either at the mercy of the Iron Bank or desperately seeking another moneylender. For example, you may have not noticed, but House Manderley has money troubles. Tycho Nestoris of the Iron Bank sails with a galleass, a galley, and a cog. And when Davos makes it to White Harbor, he spots the trading galley Stormdancer, the cogs Brave Magister and Horn of Plenty, and a galleass from Braavos marked by her purple hull and sails. So when the Iron Bank was calling in loans from all over Westeros, one of those houses was the Manderleys. Now the Manderleys having money trouble is in no way surprising. They were in the middle of building a war fleet when their Stark benefactors were killed. This is interesting as the Manderleys claim that they'll switch sides if Davos finds Rickon, but it may be that the Manderleys have already switched sides. They may have been forced to switch sides by the Iron Bank of Braavos. But let's bring this back to the Vale. Littlefinger specifically says he's been buying up Waynwood debt, and Littlefinger essentially buys Harry the Heir as a ward from House Waynwood. House Corbray also seems desperate for cash as they marry a commoner in order to get a dower. This wedding is naturally set up by Littlefinger. Now we're not sure what Littlefinger did to win over House Grafton and House Linderley, but he got 2 wards from them, so it's possible that their situation is similar to House Waynwood. Now Littlefinger says that House Belmore is corrupt and can be bought, so I imagine they have debt problems as well. So these are the houses that attend the Corbray wedding and seem to support Littlefinger. There's also a House Waxley that supports Littlefinger, but they're off to the south off the map, and there's also House Templeton, but we don't know where they sit. Now if you notice, Littlefinger's allies have complete control of this major river that goes through the middle of the Vale. And this river happens to be right across the narrow sea from Braavos. And this river ends smack dab in the middle of Westeros. Now when we last saw Stannis, he had just sent off his men to hire Braavosi sellswords and sellsails. Although Stannis tells them to go to Eastwatch, if they wanted to invade Westeros instead, this would be the perfect route. So it seems Littlefinger had a plan to beggar the Iron Throne and force a default with the Iron Bank. This causes the Iron Bank to call in its loans, making many lords desperate for cash. Littlefinger is there to bail out the Vale lords, make friends, and gain wards. With the Vale River secure, he can then prepare for invasion. Setting up the Vale for an invasion explains why Littlefinger only wanted temporary governance of the Vale. It also explains why he needed to get rid of Lysa Arryn. Lysa was against war in the Vale as it endangers Sweet Robin. Littlefinger even requests some old Baratheon tapestries. If those old Baratheon tapestries happen to include Baratheons, they, along with Maya Stone, could be used as evidence that Stannis has a claim to the throne over Tommen. Access to Westeros, proof of legitimacy, money, and possible Vale allies. It's as if Littlefinger is trying to put Stannis on the throne. But we know that that's not the case. Littlefinger had the chance to put Stannis on the throne twice before. Once with Ned's coup and once with the Battle of the Blackwater. In both cases he worked to keep Stannis off the throne. So not Stannis. So let's explore whether Littlefinger could be supporting the Lannisters. Yes, that sounds crazy, but in both Ned's coup and the Battle of the Blackwater, Littlefinger did support the Lannisters. Now in some ways support of the Lannisters makes sense. After all, half of the crown's debt is to the Lannisters, as is probably many other houses. If Littlefinger's power comes from bailing people out of debt, he kind of needs House Lannister around. If House Lannister is destroyed, so are all the debts owed to House Lannister. And yet Littlefinger blabs around town that the Lannisters are incestuous. This is a risky move as Renly, Stannis, or Jon Arryn could have easily just gone to Robert. I imagine in some Littlefinger way he convinced them not to, but it's still a risk. Now after the murder of Jon Arryn, he has Lysa send a letter to Catelyn blaming the whole thing on the Lannisters. Now again there's a chance that Ned would have just gone to Robert. This is again a risky move. The point of all of this is that the Lannisters are disposable. The destruction of the Lannisters may set Littlefinger back, but it's not a deal breaker. He can simply run up more debt. Now what about the Starks? Is Littlefinger working towards their success? Is he working towards their failure? What's amazing is that Ned is a huge part of Littlefinger's plan, but Littlefinger seems completely indifferent about Ned's fate. He saves Ned's life after Jaime attacks him, thus preventing war. And he bribes Janos Slynt, who kills Ned, which causes war. Littlefinger even offers Ned a pretty good deal at one point. Take the Regency, marry Sansa to Joffrey, and rule the kingdom. It's remarkably similar to the deal he offers the Tyrells later. Keep in mind this offer to Ned would have also avoided war, so it's not like Littlefinger is just some lover of chaos. Now some may think that Littlefinger wasn't being sincere when he made this offer to Ned, but I think he was, and I'll talk more about this later. So far it seems that Littlefinger isn't working to advance Aegon, Stannis, the Lannisters, or the Starks. At the same time, he doesn't seem to be against aligning with them either. He may just be an opportunist, but at the same time he seems to have a long-term plan. We'll get deeper into Littlefinger's plans and talk about the other houses in Part 2.